Welcome everybody at our event, Infinite Possibilities. What can I do with a PhD in mathematics? My name is Stanisława Kanas. I am professor of Rzeszów University and the president of the Association of Polish Women in Mathematics, and also the chair of Rzeszów branch of Polish Mathematical Society. I'm very pleased to welcome all people interested in our event, and I'm honored to welcome distinguished speakers and our colleagues. I want to thank all the speakers, and I'm really grateful for the organizers for their help. To begin with, I would like to present the situation of women in Poland. There are There are more than 38 million citizens of Poland, of which the share of women invariably accounts for almost 52%. At Polish universities, the situation is very similar. I want to mention that in Poland there are 133 public universities, including technical, medical, natural science, economics, and pedagogical. In 2018-2019 academic year, the number of women studying at research universities amounted approximately 58% of total number, 241,000 students, 241,000 students. And in science, women make up 46 of all students, and this percentage has remained almost unchanged for years. Anyway, in mathematics, the number is much larger. We see here that the number of female students is 59.6% in the academic year 2018-2019. However, the percentage of women decreases in the process of reaching the higher level of scientific career. And we see here that total students at the university, working at the universities, total PhD and work with habilitation and female with being full professors here. It is 43.9% PhD, and with habilitation in German sense is 40.3 female workers, and also full professors 15.8. But in STEM, there is 36.8 with PhD, and the number of female professors is quite small, is 10.8 full professors, and with habilitation for 24.2. In spite of a high number of female students in mathematics, as we can see here, 59.6, the percentage of women developing their career at the universities in math is very low. And here we see at the lowest bar the number of full professors. That data include the period since 2014 till 2017, 2018, 2020. So we can see that, for example, female full professors, there is in 2017 7.1%, and 2018 is 4.5, and in 2020 there is a very high number of female professors, 17.1. But this rate can cheat us. Let's look at cold number. In 2017, there was only one female full professor in mathematics. And the same number was in 2018. So since 2014 till 2018, there was only one female professor, full professor in mathematics. And that number grows rapidly, so that in 2020, we have got 6 full professors in mathematics. And the number of PhD is almost the same through that years, between 36 up to 38, and the same with habilitation, between 24-25%. In the world, there are a number of mathematical associations collecting women working in mathematics and applications. As the most important, we should mention on major 3 organizations supporting women. That are European Women in Mathematics and also Women in Mathematics Committee of European Mathematical Society. And we host today Alessandra Celetti, who represent both of them. And the second is Association for Women in Mathematics, AWM. And our guest, Caroline Perschel, is former director of AWM. And International Mathematical Union, especially Committee for Women in Mathematics. Alessandra and me are CWM ambassadors. And also I want to mention our speaker, Edith Kovyak, who represents the educational side. Professor Ursula Forisch, she represents a very important field of mathematics, means applications in biology and medicine. And last but not least, the good spirit and the main organizer of this event, Marta Lewicka, who is professor of the University of Pittsburgh and fellow of the American Mathematical Society. Growing number of women at the lowest level of scientific hierarchy caused the need of creating associations that help women in their career. In order to answer of those needs, the Association of Polish Women in Mathematics was founded. This idea was realized in April 2016. Main goal of our association are development of mathematical sciences, enhancement of visibility among the Polish and international mathematicians, support the progress of women in mathematics, promotion of the achievements of women in mathematics, exchange between academic institutions and in the country and the world, expansion of the base of Polish women in mathematics, and close collaboration with International Organization of Women in Mathematics. We realize our aims in the various ways: organizing conferences, seminars, conducting discussion. We distribute information on job possibilities, seminars, prizes. We write our recommendation and nomination. We collaborate with other associations of women in mathematics. Our flagship project is the Conference on the Trail of Women in Mathematics. And the first of that series, the first conference was devoted to 100th anniversary of the birth of Professor Helena Rassiowa. Professor Rassiowa is related to the University of Warsaw, and she dealt with algebraic methods in logic, classical and non-classical logic, algorithmics, and artificial intelligence. She was one of the first people to recognize the importance of mathematical logic for computer science. And that conference gathered over 100 participants, female and male participants. And the second conference, this is a picture of that conference. And the second conference on the Trail of Women in Mathematics was devoted to the well-known mathematician, Professor Zofia Kowalewska, and was held in the previous year. This event was joined with the Year of Mathematics and 100th anniversary of Polish Mathematical Society. Other conferences, and this is also the picture from that second conference, and other conferences organized by a member of our association are the following: the Conference on Applications of Mathematics in Biology and Medicine, International Conference on Analytic Function and Related Topics, Conference Dynamic Equation on Time Scales, International Symposium on Fuzzy Set, Uncertainty Modeling. Because of the pandemic situation, the organization of stationary meetings has been suspended. Therefore, our activities have moved to the internet. Since September 2020, once a month, our webinar, Paul Womad's Seminar, is held. At that seminar, women working in mathematical sciences from all over Poland present their scientific achievements. Polish Women in Mathematics established prize and offers a patronage to the Edyta Szymańska Prize, which was established at Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. But these prizes will be presented by Ursula Foryś. And our newest project is the organization of the event Infinite Possibilities. What can I do with a PhD in mathematics, where successful female mathematicians tell us about their way to success. We'll discuss concrete examples to promote, educate, encourage and support women in mathematics. Our role models will show their personal and professional experience. Thank you very much. Thank you. And next speaker is Professor Ursula Foryś from University of Warsaw. She is a chair of the section of biomathematics and game theory at the University of Warsaw and chair of the Warsaw branch of Polish Mathematical Society and vice president of Polish Women in Mathematics. Please, Ursula.
Thank you, Stasia, for introduction. Good afternoon. My name is Ursula Foryś. I'm a professor of mathematics at the University of Warsaw, Faculty of Mathematics, Informatics and Mechanics, Institute of Applied Mathematics and Mechanics. And I would like to present you my way to the professor's title. As a child, I liked math very much, but not only to learn, but also to teach. I got a toy blackboard from my neighbors, and using it, I taught my teddy bears and dolls. However, I also loved to learn languages. It was a bit unusual that time, but I started to learn English at primary school, even earlier than Russian, which was obligatory for all of us. English songs and poems sounded nice and rhythmic to me, while Russian phrases sounded so melodic. In the secondary school, I had very good teachers, both of mathematics and Russian as well, and I still was not sure what to do in the future. However, my first love won, and I decided to study mathematics. Because I was born and lived in Warsaw, the choice was only one, the Faculty of Mathematics, Informatics and Mechanics at the University of Warsaw. However, I thought that the theoretical mathematics could be difficult, and I looked for other possibilities. I was lucky because 1 year before I began my study, the faculty had started a new direction of study, namely applied mathematics. Great, it was then my choice. The faculty was located at the Palace of Science and Culture at that time. Auditoriums were on the 8th and 12th floors, and together with my friends, we used to climb the stairs to the 30th floor during the largest break. Usually, the closed gate was at this floor, but once we found this gate opened and we climbed to the 33rd floor and we met armed Russian soldier. We turned back and ran down as fast as possible. However, I wonder who was more scared than time. Just after my graduation, the faculty moved to another building, and eventually our headquarters has been located at the Banach Street, and we have now a great address. Starting from my master's thesis, I have been involved in modeling of immune reaction. This is another interesting story. In the 80s of 20th century, Professor Yuri Marchuk, former president of Russian Academy of Sciences, visited Warsaw and had a talk about his problems with chronic hepatitis and the idea of modeling immune reaction against this disease. My supervisor, Professor Wiesław Szlenk, became fascinated with this topic, and this resulted in several master's theses around it. One of the important properties of this model from mathematical point of view is the presence of time delay. In the original model, it is a discrete delay, and my master thesis was related to distributed delay present in this system. I continued the research on modeling of immune system within my PhD. Under the supervision of Professor Wiesław Szlenk, I prepared my PhD thesis in which I analyzed Marchuk's model depending on the magnitude of time delay and other model parameters. Unfortunately, Professor Szlenk died before my defense, and I was graduated formally by Professor Andrzej Baczewski, who was a friend of Professor Szlenk and accepted my thesis, accepted before by Professor Szlenk. Immune reaction modeling was the first topic of my collaboration with the Institute of Biocybernetics and Biomedical Engineering, Polish Academy of Sciences. Next, I was involved in preparing a report for Forest Research Institute on modeling outbreaks of forest pests in Polish forests. However, a turning point in my career was participation in international grants focused on tumor modeling. I owe it to Professor Mirosław Lachowicz. He had a cooperation with the Italians who got the idea to participate in the European Union research programs. Starting from the first grant our consortium obtained, I've met many people involved in tumor growth and treatment modeling, and I'm involved in this research till today. What is most important, I was invited to Israel to give a course on dynamical systems in biomathematics, and this was a starting point of my collaboration with the Institute for Medical Biomathematics, founded and chaired by Professor Zia Agur. All of this allowed me to develop my research in biomathematics and to get a habilitation, which is the next step in the career of any scientist in Poland, similar to Germany and Russia as well. My habilitation was related to modeling of tumor growth and treatment, pointing out subsequent stages of tumor growth and non-standard treatment like immunotherapy. I've got this scientific degree from the Institute of Biocybernetics and Biomedical Engineering, Polish Academy of Sciences, which then allowed for promoting of my own PhD students. In the picture, you can see the promotion of Dr. Jan Poleszczuk, who was my first PhD student. and of whom I'm especially proud. At present, he is the director of the section of mathematical oncology at the Maria Skłodowska-Curie National Center of Oncology. During my way to the title of professor, I had several interesting experiences. As the topic, I can mention a position of visiting professor at China University of Geosciences, Wuhan. Indeed, this Wuhan, which is now very famous. While 10 years ago I have visited it first time, it was completely unknown for foreigners, of course, except of those related to academy, as it is an academic city, in fact. In 2018, I've got a title of professor, and you can see pictures from the promotion by the President of the Republic of Poland, also together with my husband. Now I'd like to say a bit more on my research, which is strongly related to modeling of natural phenomena, although including external influences like treatment in cancer in case of cancer or tumor. So obviously one of the main topics is immune system modeling, and I'm involved in this topic till today, however, mainly in the context of tumor-immune interactions. Second topic mentioned before is ecological modeling, mainly in the context of forest pest dynamics. This is an interesting topic, and I hope to continue this research with Professor Lidia Sukowata from the Forest Research Institute. Cancer modeling is, of course, my primary research topic, and I have been working on it over 20 years. Other topics of my interests are modeling of dyadic interactions and neuronal network, both related to the interest of my students who wanted me to join their research. Last but not least, especially in the context of present days and COVID-19 pandemics, I'm also interested in modeling of epidemiological and also eco-epidemiological processes, mainly due to my cooperation with Chinese colleagues. Coming back to my main research topic, that is cancer modeling, I'd like to highlight the role of the international grants I was involved. So you can see the list of this international grants. My main collaborative institution is Institute for Medical Biomathematics. My first visit in Israel in 2004 was just during the official war, so it was very strange and disturbing for me to see many armed soldiers around. However, it occurred that I was able to feel completely safety, and our collaboration successfully started and lasts till now. On the other hand, realization of my last research project funded by National Agency for Academic Exchange has been disturbed by COVID-19. Nevertheless, we obtained interesting results as regards fitting patients' data for prostate cancer, and I hope we will be able to continue this research. And again, I was lucky, and it was possible to organize Polish-Israeli workshop just before the real outbreak of the disease and the lockdown. Okay, so one could ask why math is important in the description of real life. So in my opinion, main results are the following. First, it allows to describe any process using formal, always the same language. It also allows to check if the proposed model is properly built. Analysis of the model could suggest new experiments for checking unexpected model dynamics, and validated models could serve as a basis for analysis of results of external actions like treatment of cancers, vaccination against infectious diseases, hunting a specific species, etc. Last but not least, I would like to say a few words about my organizational activities. First, at the university level, I am a chair of the section of biomathematics and game theory at the Faculty of Mathematics, Informatics and Mechanics at the University of Warsaw. Second, I am a member of Polish Mathematical Society, within which we have a division into branches. So I am in the Warsaw branch, and I am the chair of this branch at present. Again, last but not least, I am a vice president of Polish Women in Mathematics, and I'd like to say a few sentences about our award. So this award is intended for women at the age between 35 and 45 for their scientific achievements during last 5 years. We have chosen such specific age because we think that there are many awards and scholarships for young persons as well as for older scientists, while we have found a gap in between and tried to fill this gap. We hope that the range of 10 years allows to apply it also women who are involved in maternity. Any candidate for the award should publish either a monograph or at least 5 papers in international journals. There are 3 winners of the first edition of our award. I'm especially proud of the award for Monika Joanna Piotrowska, who is my former master's student. She works together with me at the Faculty of Mathematics, Informatics and Mechanics, University of Warsaw. In the section, I'm a chair. Monika is involved in various types of applications of mathematics, continuing also the very important topic of modeling no-plastic processes and anti-cancer therapies. Barbara Pencalla works at the Institute of Computer Science of the College of Life Sciences at the University of Rzeszów. Her scientific research focuses on developing new methods of computational intelligence for the so-called uncertain or imprecise data, and the analysis of theoretical properties of selected measures and operators appropriate for the application. And the final winner is Tatiana Odziewicz. She works at the Collegium of Economic Analysis of the Warsaw School of Economics. Her scientific research concerns the problems of fractional analysis and the theory of optimization with time delays. I'd like to highlight that all our winners are in fact related to applications of mathematics. However, it can change for the next edition of our award. We have many potential candidates for the award, as in Poland we have more than 40 universities with many mathematicians employed. For example, at our Faculty of Mathematics, Informatics and Mechanics at the University of Warsaw, there are 33 women out of around 215 people employed on research or teaching research positions. This shows that we have many to do with encouraging women to develop their scientific career. Okay, so this is everything I would like to tell you. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Ursula, for a very interesting presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So again, thank you very much for your invitation. And I'm happy to be here. The session of Polish Society of Women in Mathematics gives me, I hope, and all of us a great opportunity to get a wider perspective of various issues and problems women face in their mathematics career or general in science. It is a very universal paradox that in sessions like this we have we present or you present success stories, which is of course of great importance because there are role models, as have been said. But it's also important to fully understand the problems and issues women face in their career life and see proposed solutions. These sessions and other sessions in future will be, I'm sure, help and will be very important. And to see what are the problems and how we can solve them. Well, I believe that we should work together to solve the challenging problems, which is good for science and mathematics in general. And of course, as it has been discussed here, it's a good from the human point of view. I mean, we're colleagues in work, in social interactions, and it's I mean, this is important. This is an important issue. So I wish you all good success and interesting, constructive discussions, and all the best. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. And Ursula or me, I want to invite our second speaker, who is Edith Kovyak. She is Vice Dean for Students Affairs and Teaching at the Faculty of Mathematics and Computer Science of the University of Adam Mickiewicz in Poznań, and the head of the Faculty of Education, Center of Mathematics and Computer Science. She is a manager of Lego Education Innovation Studio. And she is also our role model in education. Please, Edita, let's start.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm very pleased to be able to meet with you and tell about my history of possibilities in mathematics. My name is Edith Kovyak. Of course, I am PhD in mathematics and I am an academic teacher, and I am Vice Dean for Students Affairs and Teaching at Faculty of Mathematics and Computer Science at Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań. My life statement is all starts with an idea. And I would like to say you in a few words for the first about my short biography. For the first, I was inspiring and motivating by teachers, mathematics teachers, of course, at each type of my school. I noticed that mathematics was becoming a tool for provoking critical and logical thinking. I decided to deepen these competences and certainly continue to study mathematics. So, next, I do the master degree in mathematics with a teaching specialization. I decided how my teachers, because I would like to shape the logical and critical minds of students, boys and girls, of course. Next, I work parallelly at school and do the doctoral studies. The goal was to become one of those who, by noticing errors and gaps in the teaching process, will be able to influence in the one day. And after 4 years, I got the PhD in mathematics, and I started my work as an assistant professor at Department in Computer Science. Next, I started being a manager of Faculty Didactic Center of Mathematics and Computer Science. And now, in a few months ago, exactly 2 months ago, I started to be Vice Dean for Students Affairs and teaching at my department. Adam Mickiewicz University in Poznań, especially Department of Mathematics and Computer Science, I think that there is the place when I make my goals and of course the dreams come true. And some words about Adam Mickiewicz University. It was founded in 1919 and it's the largest university located in the western part of Poland. Currently at the university is studying nearly 40,000 students in 285 faculties and specialization. Next, in 1993, 2 departments were created from the previous Faculty of Mathematics and Physics, Faculty of Mathematics and Computer Science, and Faculty of Physics. Currently, the faculty employs over 100 scientific and didactic employees. Currently, scientific research is being developed in more than 20 faculty units, research centers, cryptology center, and scientific labs supported by the didactic team. The faculty has the right to confer doctoral and postdoctoral degrees in both mathematics and computer science. In some words about the students, the faculty received in 2013 the category A, is the most important, graded by the Polish Scientific Units Evaluation Committee. This high category was again awarded in 2017. Currently at the faculty studies over 1,800 students at 2 levels of study and 4 fields: mathematics, computer science, teaching mathematics and computer science, and data analysis and data processes. So, however, the idea is not everything. You should find the right environment and people who thanks to do the idea with me. So my work gives me a lot of possibilities, maybe infinitive possibilities. All of levels of my education and working on a mathematical study, giving me with a lot of competences necessary for a person to take challenges and work in a environment. So, for example, there are mathematical competences, IT, logical thinking, social, personal culture, or communication competences. One of the scientists, Jean Piaget, said, "It's enough to shape the logic of a child and an adolescent for students to listen to the lessons, even the best ones, for many years, in the same way as an adult listens to the speaker." Specialization in mathematics education giving me a few additional methodological and communicative competences. You know, English language is not my strong part, but in Polish language, my native language, I think that I have a few additional methodological and communication competences. So, I am a research supervisor of the Students' Club of Mathematics Teaching called StudMat. So I try to show students that it's worth developing not only within compulsory student sites. For 7 years, this club was the one of the most powerful clubs on my university. The students from the StudMat do the classes in the kindergarten, classes of robotics. They participate and organize of conferences, classes for students from the first year, and do a lot of different activities at my department. I am organizer of popularization activities and competition at my department. So I try to support the teaching environment, enhancing their methodological workshops, connecting the environment of teachers, pupils, of course, researchers, create platforms for exchange of experiments. In Polish and in English, some examples of these activities. And now I am a manager of LEGO Education Innovation Studio. This is the only one academic studio LEGO in Poland. This is a place to provoke critical thinking in a representative of not only the teaching and not only mathematical environment. During the 3rd edition of the competition for the best management projects and undertaking in the university sector, Leaders in University Management, called Lumen 2019, my university, my Adam Mickiewicz University, with my challenge, my activity, LEGO, we play the award during this competition. Next, I am co-founder of a new innovative course, Teaching Mathematics and Computer Science. It was the first this course in Poland. Its enemy in Polish, Nauczyciel Mistrz Innowator, is the course called Study with the Future, and the competition called the same. The Study with the Future competition is used to distinguish the most critical, modern, and fields of study at Polish universities. Accredited study programs were assessed, among others, in terms of adaptation to the challenges of the labor market, original content and learning outcomes, and the use of modern didactic methods. This field assumes the implementation of many additional activities essential from the perspective of the needs of the contemporary environment, like study visits, personalization, tutoring, workshop on the concept of education, and summer education. And now, this year, I have gained the trust of almost all of the employees of my department, and I am vice dean for student affairs and teaching with my third colleagues. You know, I am the only one woman in a council of deans and manager at my department. My current challenge is to do the habilitation. It's important in Poland. I would like to do the habilitation in the mathematics, didactic of mathematics, with field of student competences in the field of proving. You know, everything starts with an idea. And at the end, I would like to see you a film about my the most important talent, I think. So Lego Education Innovation Studio. Maybe everything will be okay with the connection. It's a very short film in Polish. I'm sorry, but I'm sorry, that's more.
We are not lucky today.
We cannot see the video, huh?
No.
No, no.
No. So
please skip the video,
yeah.
if possible.
So I think that I will have the problem with the video. So maybe I will send the link after our meeting. Yeah, because so once more technical problem. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
There is inquiry to copy the link on the chat.
Yes, of course, of course. I will do it after my speech. So that is last. Thank you very much for attention, and thank you very much for the invitation for this meeting and conference.
Thank you very much, Edita, for your presentation and for presentation of your university and your achievements. And I would like to invite Alessandra Cioletti, who is professor of mathematical physics at the University of Rome Tor Vergata and vice president of the governing board of the Italian National Agency for the Evaluation of Universities and Research Institutes, former members of the board of directors of the Italian Space Agency, member of the Scientific Council for the European Women in Mathematics, chair of the Women in Mathematics Committee of the European Mathematical Society. Is too much for once, women, but I think that is not all, not all things that Alessandra do. Please, Alessandra, please present your model and your career.
Thank you, Stanislava. So I hope you can see the screen. Can you confirm it?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
yes,
very good. Very good. So thank you very much for the kind invitation to this meeting. I would like to thank all the organizers and the participants for giving me the opportunity to give this presentation, which I titled Mathematics, Celestial Mechanics, and Gender Balance. Now, listening to the presentations of the previous speakers, I see that we have much in common. And the point is that with this is the reason why my presentation starts with the childhood dilemma, which I think was in common with Ursula. Because the story starts when I was a child, around 5 or 6 years old, and people were asking me, what do you want to do when you grow up? So I was thinking already at the time, I like a lot mathematics, but I like also astronomy. So I would like and the answer that I gave was, I would like to study mathematics, to study the sky. At that time, of course, I was not aware of the fact that there was a solution to combine the two disciplines. And in fact, the solution is what is called celestial mechanics. And let me say, so you see that we have something in common. And let me also say that since I recognize that I'm not a very flexible person, I decided at the time, and I still think that what I want to do when I grow up is to do celestial mechanics. This is what I'm doing now, what I would like to do in the future, and to know more and more. So let me say also that my favorite game was Lego. So the only game, the only toy that I had. So I have much in common with the previous speakers. Okay, so let me tell you what is my field of research, which is celestial mechanics, which is the discipline of mathematics that studies the dynamics of objects in the solar system. This could be planets, satellites, asteroids, comets, or whatever is within the solar system, but also applies to planetary systems around other stars, the so-called extrasolar planetary systems. And since the starting of the space era with the launch of the Sputnik 1 in 1957, a branch of celestial mechanics concerns artificial satellites, and in particular, the design of interplanetary highways to go around the solar system at low cost. So this is my field of study. Use mathematical tools to study the dynamics, not the interior. I'm not a planetologist. I'm not an astronomer. But to study the dynamics, the motion of artificial and natural bodies in the solar system. So this is a timeline which shows my educational the educational steps, my academic career, and then some of the most recent milestones in my career. So I started I obtained my master's degree in mathematics in 1984 at the University of Roma La Sapienza. Then I spent 2 years as a postgraduate student at the Italian National Institute for Higher Mathematics in Rome. Then I went to Zurich, where I got a fellowship to go to Zurich, and I got my degree, my PhD, at the Polytechnic Institute of Technology in 1989. By the way, working on KM theory, that is Kolmogorov-Arnold-Moser theory. And I was honored to have my degree with Professor Moser, who was one of the founders of this theory. Soon afterwards, I moved to the University of Lakeland, where I got a position as a researcher in 1990. And then since 1999, I moved back to Rome, Roma Tor Vergata, where I had first as associate professor and then as full professor of mathematical physics. Quite recently, since last April, I joined, I was selected to be member of the governing board and actually vice president of the AMVUR, which is the National Agency for the Evaluation of the Universities and Research Centers, a position that will last in 4 years. Besides, I would like to mention two important milestones of my life. One is that I'm editor-in-chief of the one journal of which I'm pretty fond. You can guess what it is. It is Celestial Mechanics and Dynamical Astronomy. And I am honored to chair the committee Women in Mathematics of the European Mathematical Society. But before talking about women in mathematics, let me say a little few more words about my research interests. As I mentioned, I worked on different fields. Let me say both on pure and applied mathematics. Personally, I don't like the distinction between pure and applied mathematics. The two feed each other. So there is no distinction in my mind. Anyway, from the more theoretical side, I work on stability of dynamical systems, in particular perturbation theory and KM theory, while my favorite problems of celestial mechanics are rotational dynamics and space debris dynamics, but I worked also on the celebrated three-body problem, as well as on the design of interplanetary orbits. I touch also other fields from time to time. For example, I worked for some years on time series analysis in neurobiology, and quite recently I'm interested to learn how to experiment, how to use machine learning techniques in dynamical systems, which is something that I'm doing in these months. Just to give you a feeling of concretely of what I'm doing, what a PhD in mathematics can be used, and what can be done with a PhD in mathematics, I would like to mention the problem of the space debris dynamics. So maybe not all of you know that the sky above our heads is full of remnants of space debris, which are remnants of space missions, like rocket stages, fragments from disintegration, lost equipment, balls, a glove, a camera, and so on. This is a movie which shows from 1958 to recent time, to 2008, the number of space debris and satellites which are close to the Earth. They are mainly concentrated in the region close to the Earth, where most of these satellites reside, but they extend also to the geostationary ring at an altitude of about 36,000 kilometers. Well, what do we want to do with, what do we want to study about space debris? We want to study their dynamics. So we split, we need to construct suitable models according to the altitude from the Earth. This is why we distinguish different models for LEO, low Earth orbits with up to 2,000 kilometers, which are affected also by the atmospheric drag. So it is a dissipative system. And then MEO is medium Earth orbits, where the GPS satellites are. That is the satellites that we call with our mobile when we say, I would like to go to the street. And also GEO is geostationary satellites. So there are different models. And for each of these models, we want to study both stable and unstable regions. For those who are familiar with pendulum-like phase portrait plots, this is the left one is a stable plot that shows stability, and the right plot is an example of an unstable phase space plot with chaotic behavior. Both of them are useful because you would like either to put a satellite or a debris into a stable region, or rather you want to use chaos to move the space debris to different regions. So you see that everything is behind these goals, technological goals, let's say. There are mathematical ingredients, which are Hamiltonian theory, normal forms, resonances, chaos indicators, KM theory, and so on and so forth. Okay, so in summary, my scientific activities have been are concentrated both on theoretical mathematics, applied mathematics, and I run most of them through different collaborations, especially thanks to European projects. I've been involved in 3 Marie Curie innovative training networks, which has been extremely useful for my scientific development, and I also have several contracts with grants with the space agencies, in particular the Italian Space Agency. For this reason, I have also contacts with more technological sides like space industries, but I have also other activities which are that I want to mention now. That is, I'm very fond of public outreach activities because I like to write whenever I have time, popular books, give conferences to students or public at large, radio and TV interviews, or even make my own videos on celestial mechanics, of course. Well, besides, I have I'm very fond of another activity which is which concerns gender balance, and that I would like to explain from now on. As I mentioned before, I'm honored to be the chair of the Women in Mathematics Committee of the European Mathematical Society, which is composed beside myself by Lisbeth Fahrstrup, Stanislava Canas, Pablo Mira, Elena Resmerita, Marie-François Roy, Elisabetta Strickland, Anta Ormina, and Katrin Wendland. The aims of the committee are to address issues relating to the involvement, retention, and progression of women in mathematics, to support and promote the recognition of women mathematicians, to discuss appropriate initiatives coming either from groups or individuals, and of course act also as a coordinating body for committees of women in mathematics of different groups in Europe and abroad. Why this? Because there are many criticalities of women in mathematics, and more in general among women studying STEM disciplines. I just mentioned here in this slide a few of them. There are very few full professors of women mathematicians. I will show data in the next 2 slides. Few women joining editorial boards, members of meetings committees, plenary speakers, very, very few members of academies, few members in committees for prizes, awarding prizes, and very few women that received prizes. Just to give an example, these are numbers for women in mathematics in Italy in 2018. And as you see, the proportion is very high for researchers, about 46%. This is one step, the first step, and then associate professor, 39%, and only 19% of women are full professors in mathematics in Italy. And this is a high percentage. It's not low in Europe, it is even high. On the right, you can see a map with Germany, women professors in Germany. So the red dots mark departments where there are no women professors. Yellow means 1 or 2 women professors in that department, and green, at least 3 female professors, and at least 2 of them permanently appointed. So this is an example, but I would like also to mention another one, which is plenary speakers of important congresses in mathematics. So I took the data, these are public data, you can find it on the websites, for 2 meetings, the European Congress in Mathematics and the International Congress of Mathematics. And you see that over a total number of 128 plenary speakers of these congresses, which are held every 4 years, only 22 women are plenary speakers. So the percentage are very small. Nevertheless, let me say that within our committee, of which Stanislava and myself are members, we have been able to be very proactive in identifying women mathematicians with the potential to award the prize. And we are very happy that the last EMS prizes, we had a good percentage of women that were supported by our committee and were recipients of the prizes. We also monitor the composition constantly of the editorial boards of the EMS journals. We provide this data to the executive committee of EMS and the EMS president, and together with them, we provide support in identifying possible candidates for being members of editorial boards. Besides, we interact very frequently with several groups like the European Women in Mathematics Association, and also, for example, we supported initiatives like the summer school at the Institute Mittag-Leffler. So let me spend a few words now about the EWM, European Women in Mathematics. I see also that in the attendance list, there is also Anna Maria Cherubini, who is a prominent member of EWM, whose goal is to encourage women to study mathematics, to support women in their careers, to promote scientific communication and collaborate with other groups, and of course, giving prominence and visibility to women mathematicians. This is at European members, but as Stanislava was saying, there is also a larger group, worldwide group of women in mathematics. It is called the CWM, Committee for Women in Mathematics, which has a list of hundreds of ambassadors worldwide. And again, the aims are to promote, to encourage women mathematicians, and also to provide a website with a lot of data. In particular, I would like to point out this gender gap project, which is a project chaired by Marie-Françoise Roy. This is the website, which is a multidisciplinary project in which 11 organizations contributed to the analysis of gender gap in STEM disciplines and providing insights from the proportion of women both as research authors or publishing in top scientific journals. And besides, it gives also a database of good practices. So this is a very interesting publication. And this led me also, while I was preparing these slides, to think about my own good practices to mention. And let me say that based upon my experience, I would like to mention 4 points. The first one is that I suggest you to base always your selection criterion upon an excellence criterion. In this way, you will never be wrong. And this should also both for men and women. Then I would also to say that upon my experience, you should never worry, because you will always find excellent women for the purposes for which you look for women in STEM disciplines. Of course, you should never forget to promote your female colleagues as speakers, members of committees, and so on and so forth, and help younger female collaborators, especially to be self-confident. This is an important point. Last but not least, I think we should also ask our male colleagues to pay attention to gender balance. I must say that very often I found that they simply never had the chance to see the problem from a different perspective. So it is useful to point out that indeed there is a problem. And these good practices are now something that we are not inventing now, but they are established also at European level. For example, let us look at these gender equality plans, which will be posed as an eligibility criterion in the next European Committee program, Horizon Europe. This is the website. And from next year, the European Commission will propose the development of inclusive gender equality plans. This is the statement. I cut and paste their statement here. The Commission will introduce new measures to strengthen gender equality in Horizon Europe, such as the requirement of a gender equality plan from applicants and an initiative to increase the number of women-led technology startups. Funding for gender intersectional research will also be made available. last, I would like to mention something which is in the Charter of Fundamental Rights of the European Union, Article 23. And also, let me say that I found it in the Italian Constitution, Article 3, and I'm pretty sure that it is common to many national constitutions. Each of these articles, both at European and at national level, are based on, are given by two statements, two parts, the first part and the second part. Let me read the Italian one, which I know better. The first one says that all citizens have equal social dignity and are equal before the law without distinction of sex, race, language, religion, political opinion, personal and social conditions. This is common. This is something that everybody reminds. But very few people know that Article 3 of the Constitution, as well as the Charter of Fundamental Rights, has also a second part, which says that it is the duty. And I underline this word, it is the duty. It is not an option. It is the duty of the Republic. It is the duty of Europe to remove the obstacles that make this gender imbalance. This is, I think, a very important point that everybody of us, men and women should bear in mind. So I want to conclude by showing you a sentence which was written by the king of mathematicians of all times, Carl Friedrich Gauss. It is not written now, it was written more than 2 centuries ago, and says that when a woman, because of her sex, our costumes, and prejudices, encounters infinitely more obstacles than men in familiarizing herself with knotty problems, yet overcomes these fetters and penetrates that which is most hidden, she doubtless has the most noble courage, extraordinary talent, and superior genius. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Alessandra, for your beautiful presentation and for paying attention for good practice and also giving an example of wonderful Italian women. And we see that there are highest number of female women at the universities with a PhD degree and full professors and so on. This is contrary to my example. From Poland. So, but I heard that in Italy, there are 2 associations for women in mathematics and that they are very strong. Thank you very much for presentation of your way to success, for your achievements, scientific achievement. We saw that you are very strong research in the applied mathematics, and of course, your choice. I think that your choice in the in your young years. Were very, very good. So, thank you very much. And our next speaker is Caroline Perschel. She is a Chief Operating Officer at Service Robotics and Technologies, former American Association for the Advancement of Science and Tech Diplomacy Fellow and the Evaluation Coordinator at the Department of State, former Executive Director of the Association for Women in Mathematics. So we have got the second representative of the Association for Women. Please, Caroline.
Thank you so much, Stanislava.
Thank you.
And thank you guys for having me, for inviting me. I'm over on the west coast of the US, so it's early morning here, but good afternoon to you. If you would like to find me on LinkedIn, you can find me by my last name. It turns out that 4 generations ago, my grandfather's last name was Polski, but he changed it due to gambling debts. And we are now the only people with this exact spelling of the last name. So I'm pretty easy to find. Yeah. So let me go ahead and do a quick screen share. let's see if I can make that work. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yes, we see. Okay.
So what we've seen from so many of these amazing women are these great and phenomenal positions that they hold, and it's put them in these places where they can reach back and help others. And so we're all very appreciative of that. And for me, as I've moved through my career, what the positions have been fantastic, but what I've always wanted to know is, how do you make that transition? How do you actually make the choice to say, I'm going to move from here to this next job or this next position? And sometimes weighing those factors, understanding when you're right, that you're saying the next thing is better, I just know it, because sometimes you don't know, but you're going to go ahead and try anyway. And my career has followed a lot of those changes. And let me just jump to this next slide here. This is a trite and silly picture that people use all the time, but for me, if early on I had understood that other people had had a career trajectory like mine, I think I would have felt more confident in moving through that. And so I wanted to present my non-linear career trajectory, just so that other people can have it as an opportunity and see that these things are possible. And just because you're not seeing other people do it this way doesn't mean it's wrong. And as I've said, that's something that would have meant a lot to me a long time ago. So what I'm going to do is run through how I've moved across positions, but instead I'm going to really focus on when and why did I change? Because I think that's an undiscussed piece that really has a lot of effect as people try to go forward and make their own decisions. So I started at St. Mary's College as a political science major, and a nun suggested that I be a math major. Well, I mean, I think that one's pretty clear. If a nun suggests that you should do something, you feel like there's divine intervention, and so you do it. I started out as a political science major, even though I loved mathematics, because that's how I thought I could make a difference in the world. I didn't feel connected to the college. And so after a semester abroad, I transferred. And in the US, this isn't necessarily the easiest thing to do, to transfer universities. And so I really don't know at what point I thought I could do that. But I think what this speaks to is that when we don't feel welcome in a space, we don't want to stay there. Looking back, I'm just glad that it didn't mean I left college totally, because of course, by then I was on the path for mathematics. So I transferred to a place called the University of Tennessee at Martin, which was a relatively small school. I went there for sports. And luckily they also had a math program. I knew that I wanted to go to graduate school. And while I was there, I realized that my institution was very small, and that the only way I thought I'd be prepared was to do everything I could. So I took every math, physics, and statistics course the university offered, just to make sure that I was prepared. I applied for every single program I could think of between undergrad and graduate school to just further prepare me. And then I believe what I actually did way back then in undergrad is, and this is perhaps a good technique if we have any students on the phone, is I wrote to each of the universities I was going to apply to, and I said, I'm just going to happen to be in the neighborhood on these days. Is it okay if I come in and meet with someone about your program? And of course, the only reason I was in the neighborhood is because I was coming to visit that university. But you shouldn't want to underestimate that. Even if you have a decent application or a competitive application, the point is that nowadays universities are receiving a giant stack of applications. And so there are many people who look qualified. So how do they remember you and your name? So I did that. It was successful. And I was able to go to Rice University. Let's see if I can, I'm not sure what happened there. So while I was at Rice University doing my master's and PhD in, I did low dimensional topology. I think I absorbed the vibes that tend to happen in graduate school. Your advisor is someone who is at a tier 1 research institution who advises PhD students. In mathematics, that typically means their career has been in academia their entire lifespan. And it means that what they value is careers at tier 1 research institutions where you're predominantly doing research. You know, the golden standard in the US for, you know, the perfect math job would be low teaching, all research. whether or not that's what you want. And what I want to encourage everyone to realize is that when we talk to mentors and advisors and people who attempt to be advocates for us, we have to keep in mind that what they're doing is they're helping us understand how they did what they did. It doesn't necessarily mean it's what we want, but without listening, we can hear their value system being that this is a desired outcome. And I found that during graduate school, I had completely absorbed that mentality. And I absorbed the mentality of what it means to be successful in graduate school. And so, I don't know, in the US, there are some hobbies that are more celebrated if you're in mathematics, right? If you're in mathematics and you play chess or cello or piano, right? Like those seem to go along with this idea, this stereotype we have of really good mathematicians. And so I eliminated all these facets of myself during graduate school because I needed to focus, of course, get good at what I did if this was the career I wanted. But what becoming single faceted did for me is it meant that when I had small failures in mathematics, that was now the only side to my personality. And so small failures there really meant that I was a failure overall. And so looking back at graduate school, if I could, I would be sure to keep those other sides to who I was. And I think that that was probably my own fault, but I do think that there's something about the atmosphere of graduate school and the need to do well and finish quickly and so on that tends to eliminate those pieces. And for me, it was detrimental. In the 5th year, I was a 6-year program for master's and PhD. In my 5th year, someone published what I was working on. And they didn't just publish it, they did a much better job of what my thesis was from where I currently was. And so at the beginning of my 5th year, I had no dissertation and I needed to restart on a new project. Because of that, I had very little time and I needed to make a decision. And my decision was it's more important that I finish my PhD than that I do a job search, because I can always do a job search in subsequent years. My home university, where I'd finished my undergrad, the University of Tennessee at Martin, I must have just been having a conversation with them and they said, oh, we'd love to have you back. And so I said, great, that's where I'll go. So I didn't even look for a job. My goal was to finish my PhD. I don't even think I put in an application. It's a small university in a rural setting in the US. And I thought, great, fine, I have a plan. I can now just focus on finishing my PhD. And so my first job out of academia was something that I just stumbled into. And by doing that, it didn't set me up for some of these other opportunities. It wouldn't have been insurmountable, but it definitely wasn't an easy first step. So for me, going back to the University of Tennessee at Martin as a professor, it comes with its own troubles. So it was a nice, safe place to land after graduate school so that I could figure out what I wanted to do next. But I have to say it's difficult to return to your past alma mater. So obviously, if we go on to graduate school, it means that we're all good students and that we're good in math. And so at my small university, I was good in math, which meant that based on my personality, I also was a bit of a clown in classes. I didn't think about that when I came back as a student. What that meant was that I found my colleagues who used to be my professors didn't take me seriously. And they didn't see me as a full colleague. And as I look back, perhaps I could have navigated that situation differently. But I realized that my interests in mathematics would have been in program management and leadership and systemic change to help students. Those would have been things that lean towards chair, dean, provost in a university. And when your colleagues only see you as a kid, that career path is not open to you. And so it took me a while to realize this. But I did realize that the trajectory I was on at the University of Tennessee at Martin wasn't where I wanted to go. the other piece that I only realized looking back later is that it didn't align with what I enjoyed doing. So I enjoy running projects. I enjoy working on strategic institutional change. I enjoy also doing mathematics. But of course, as a math professor, the way that you're evaluated is typically by your research, your committee work, some of your teaching. And I'm someone who likes to get gold stars. So I think that this was one of the biggest pieces that helped me decide I needed to do something else, is realizing that the reward system or the value system and where you work, when that doesn't align with your values, it's going to be really hard to be happy at a long-term workplace. But of course, I'd come through academia. In some ways, being a math professor was the only thing I had considered. And so trying to figure out what was next was very scary. Additionally, I jokingly say that I'm not useful to nearly anyone with a degree in low dimensional topology, in that, and that, that's a joke, but what I mean is that I didn't know how to use any skills I had outside of the mathematics classroom. And so that was a big learning curve for me. So while I was at University of Tennessee at Martin, I decided I didn't want to stay. I thought I knew that, but I didn't know what next. So I applied for anything I could. I had the opportunity, to teach summer school at a university in China. And one of the things I learned from this was how to make change quietly. As someone who wanted to tell you why women should also be in charge, I realized that I wasn't going to change thousands of years of Chinese culture in one summer when I was there as a supporting professor of mathematics. But I did find that there were a lot of things that were problematic about the for-profit system that I had come overseas to teach in. And so myself and another woman in mathematics worked to push policies forward by handing them to an older male whom the administration would listen to. I didn't enjoy that. I wanted to be able to take a stand, but I also realized that in the end, the change was what was important for the program that I was in that summer. And we just needed to figure out how to make that happen, however it could. So that was a good experience for me in that way. I applied and I did a Fulbright Nehru scholarship at the University of Hyderabad, where I was teaching logic and foundations course to master's students. And this was, I had finished my PhD in 2009, as many of you probably remember going through that process. That's what you are doing for many years. And it actually wasn't until almost 2013 that I was able to sort of pick my head up from work and start to look around again. And that was because it was, a light teaching load when I was overseas. You don't have these other domestic burdens that you have when you're at home. So that was really a big change opportunity for me to teach overseas there. It was a fantastic program. And while I was there, I knew that I was going to be leaving academia, but yet academia gives you this fantastic platform that you can apply to things from, that are programs that are available for academics that might not be available elsewhere. So again, I just knew that I didn't want to go back to the University of Tennessee at Martin as a long-term position. But I didn't know what else was there. And so I found out about the American Association for the Advancement of Science. They have a policy fellowship where they take PhDs in STEM and medicine and place them into government in 1 to 2 year positions. So that was a fantastic program that I was able to get into. They flew me back 3 times from India for interviews. And in the days of us all being like, Zoom is fine, this is funny to look back at. And it was a very stressful time because I was trying to debate whether I was going to quit a tenure track position. So I went ahead and I quit my tenure track position, and I came back from India to the US. I was in Tennessee. I had sold my home. I had said my goodbyes. I had quit my tenure track academic position. And I was driving to Washington, D.C., and I got a phone call that said the funding had been cut for my position. And they were just really sorry. And so, I think that as I've talked to other people about this, they say things like, oh, what did you do? How did you decide to keep driving to Washington, D.C.? And there really wasn't that much strength or gumption or forethought in any of it. It's that I had nothing else to do. I had literally severed every other tie. And this was the thing I was going to do. I was moving into a completely new field. I didn't even have the network of people that I knew. So I drove to DC. I went into the offices. I said, I'm sure you didn't expect this to happen, but this position was cut. What else is still available? And so we repositioned what I was going to be doing. They helped me get placed. And I wound up working for 2 years with the US Foreign Service, the Department of State, where I worked at the Foreign Service Institute, which is their campus for educating diplomats about going overseas, making change. Well, everything from diplomatic negotiations to how to run the IT structure at an embassy overseas. And so I actually came in at the top of this entire organization of 1,500 faculty, looking at how we could be doing systematic evaluation of programs. So how do we know that the training and the teaching that we're doing is actually achieving what it's supposed to achieve? And so I got to spend 2 years deep diving into monitoring and evaluation and looking at the sociological impacts and how it changes what a person does when we teach them something. And this was so interesting to me after having been in the classroom. In the classroom, we tend to have short-sighted views about students. We have them in one class. I hope they take this and they use it just in the next class. And what this work I did said, how are you using this in life as you're going on? And because we had people for many years in the same career, we were able to look at how are they using this information they're learning over time. I really say that my work in evaluation is like qualitative statistics. It's still building that proof of what happened and why, but now using a bit of behavioral economics of what's happening. And so I found it fascinating. Again, I came to this job with the Department of State not knowing anything other than I didn't want my last job, which isn't the way you expect that you plan a career, but it was enough for me at the time. The US has many of these programs which are open to international citizens as well. So if anyone has interest, I can point you to those. My work with the Department of State, though, was a little bit stressful. I'm working with former ambassadors, and there's a level of perfectionism which is beyond anything that we've even experienced in math. And so as my 2-year appointment was coming to a close, they were saying that they would be happy to have me stay on. But I definitely still felt like a fish out of water in this environment. And so I indicated, well, I think I want to go back to math. I don't know if I did, but again, I just wasn't sure about that. And I still didn't know what was next. So I was keeping the door open in case I needed to work with the Department of State still. And this next position and how it came about, I don't expect this to happen to anyone else, but I'll give you the example so that you can understand that sometimes decisions are just made this way. I was working at the Department of State and I got a message through LinkedIn, and it was actually very weird. It was, hey, my company needs someone like you. And I thought, this is spam. But I was having such a terrible day at work that I was like, okay, let's do a call. Sure, I'm calling you on this. And it turned out that it was a real opportunity. It was with a startup out of Silicon Valley that was doing algorithm optimization, and they wanted to look at natural language processing. And some of my work with Department of State was looking at both language, and then with my background in mathematics, that's how they had found me. And so I put a toe in the water with them, starting nights and weekends while I was still working at Department of State, because I was very much unclear that I would be able to bring value to what they did. And luckily, they were excited enough to have me that they saw through my attempting to tell them they shouldn't have me. And I worked for them for well over a year and actually looked at both the math and the management and the leadership portions of that. In this specific position, this is one that, looking back on how you decide to make changes, I have to say I was a little lazy on. Towards the end of my time with this company, I found that some of the ethical decisions they were making about data usage, I had a lot of problems with. And they were just questions that people weren't asking and they weren't answering. And there is a lot of this with data, especially in companies that move fast. But I have to say I was lazy in that I wasn't actively planning how to step out. Just another opportunity came up. And so I finally did leave. So what happened was my husband and I had kicked off a software company. And in 2017, we actually got funding from the National Science Foundation to build a collaborative robotics software framework that brings in robotics from different manufacturers. And then, of course, now IoT and other smart devices. And so we started that, and it was, again, a good alignment for me. It was this type of academic research and also project management, and also getting to work on big and exciting projects that weren't necessarily what my PhD was in. And I think that that was some of my problem with finishing my PhD. If you recall, I had to change topics very much at the last minute in order to finish. And so what I finished with wasn't something that, I knew I wanted to spend my whole career working on. But I enjoyed this, and I enjoyed the work in some of the applied problems that we worked on, and the change that happened very often with it. The exciting part for me in working in a startup is that there were many things about academia that I loved. I loved autonomy over my own time. I loved the feeling that we were, expanding the frontiers of knowledge. There are many things to academia that I thought were unique to academia. And I've found that I have those both in the type of work or the process of the work that I can find in other places as well. And so that was surprising to me. And I've only realized that years out of academia and looking back. So while we were doing this work, I often explained that this was my husband's dream job. And I enjoyed the work, but I wouldn't have said it was my dream job. And so when an opportunity came, the Association for Women in Mathematics, we're going to need to be hiring a new executive director. So I applied for that, did the interviews and was brought in that role. And I loved the work. I would say that it was absolutely my dream job. I was working on institutional change that worked on taking some of the latest and synthesizing the latest social science data on welcoming environments and the need for diversity in workplace, particularly around gender parity. And then also, how are we doing that institutionally? And how are we doing that individually? How are we also looking at that pipeline and saying, hey, I want to change the climate, but in the meantime, I just need to make sure that you who are in the pipeline now are not falling out for reasons that aren't about your mathematical ability. It was fantastic work. As I say, again, I loved the work. It was technically a bad job in terms of workload and pay and needs from the time. So I eventually had to make the decision to leave that job. And that was probably one of the harder ones I had to make, decisions I had to make, where I had to actually say, I think I'm going to leave, but there's so much I like about doing this work. But what I found is that the work that I did there to work on institutional change, I did it because I thought I had a platform. I had a platform as executive director to show mothers in the workplace, to work on how do you make change, at these government levels, which I had had previous experience with Department of State. And what I found that's exciting now is that I can take those same things, and I had a platform with Association for Women in Mathematics, but I do have a platform now with our existing company and in the startup world. And how do we also talk about creating safe and welcoming work environments for women and other underrepresented minorities in tech? And so I don't know that I would have had the foresight, the understanding that I could take that same skill set and apply it back to where I am now. So that's been exciting. And then I'm back with service robotics and technologies full time. So a few takeaways that I want to throw out from this explanation of my own career path is that linear career paths are great, and we hear about many of them. And I say they're great if that's your thing. Don't panic if it's not. As I said, if I had heard early on that career paths might look different, I think that would have brought me a lot of peace in how I was moving through career choices. The second bullet there is be aware of the external value system and whether that's your value system. So again, in graduate school, it was easy to absorb the values of the institution, of my advisor, but I realized that those weren't actually my values. And then in all this, you need to identify conflicting goals. At the University of Tennessee at Martin, some of my conflicting goals are that I didn't exactly have the time, energy, or interest during my time there to be doing mathematical research by myself in my office. And yet I'm someone who wants gold stars. And that's how you get those in academia, one way. And so for me, that was a conflicting goal, and realizing I would not be happy in that situation. The next part is to make goal disengagement, or goal disengagement is the fancy word for it, otherwise known as quitting, one more tool in your toolbox. I think that in the US at least, there is a zeitgeist around sticking it out. You know, he who persists longest will always win. And it's actually pretty detrimental. We should understand that it's okay at some point to say, you know what, that's not actually what I want anymore. And I think that learning that skill was very important for me as well. It helped me as I've made career choices to move forward. The next bullet I would highlight is, as you're looking at academia or industry, you should think about what you actually like about doing the work. So for me, I loved the process and problem solving. That helped me be successful in mathematics. But that also means that I can find great joy in all sorts of other kinds of work because I've identified those parts of the process that I like. And so I find ways to do those in my other jobs. As you move out of academia, and this is one of the hardest things for me to learn, you no longer have to be an expert. Now, of course, I don't mean claim that you know bridge structural integrity and go look at bridges and sign off on them. I don't mean that. But I do mean that I think in academia, we all know someone smarter than us. And we all know someone who it's their exact field and you might be in a tangential field. And so we tend to defer and say, oh, I'm not the right person to make this decision. And what was eye-opening to me is, as I left and I was in government and industry, there's a need to make decisions and move forward. And so I would often push back and say, well, I'm not actually the expert in this, so I shouldn't be making that decision. And yet I had more baseline understanding than the person who had come to me. And so if I don't weigh in, they're fully making that decision on their own. So you don't have to be an expert, but you do have to know how you can support finding the information you need, because sometimes the experts aren't always easy to find and quick enough. So one of the last things I'll say is to develop your personal litmus test for new opportunities. As I've said, I felt a little random in what I was doing with a career. And I actually often sort of beat myself up over that. Like I should have a better plan. And I realized that by just calling out what I was doing, I felt more confident about it. And so my personal litmus test for when I would change careers or jobs or take on new opportunities is, I would say, does it look interesting? Does it use some skills that I already have? Because it's not fun to be in a new position if you can't actually contribute anything. So I wanted to make sure it did use skills that I have, but does it also give me a direction to grow and a direction that I want to grow in? So that was it. Those 3 questions were my personal litmus test for if I was going to go ahead and try a new opportunity that came along. And then finally, of course, recognize your privilege and commit to help others. So as you go through your career stages, there are going to be doors that are open because of things that you didn't always have control over. It might be who you knew. And so make sure that as you have the opportunity and are moving up to other positions, that you're aware of these institutional cycles that allow certain groups to perpetuate and disenfranchise others. So I'll stop there. My email's on here as well, and please feel welcome to reach out.
Thank you very much, Carolina, for a very interesting talk and for presenting some advices and problems in the choice and in your life and in your career. This is a very good this is a very good role model for women who want to find a way to achieve something in their life. And the next and the last, but not the least, speaker is Julia Gore. She's a program director in the Division of Mathematical Sciences of the National Science Foundation, professor of mathematics at the University of Houston, and the representative of the American Women in Mathematics, associate editor of SciM, Journal of Applied Mathematics, and others. Maybe not all, not full presentation, but you have a possibility to complete. Please, Julia, present, and we see your screen.
Okay, thank you so much. So I will try to glance through and I try not to keep you longer. So first of all, I would like to thank Marka, Stanislava, and other organizers for inviting me to this wonderful event, which is filled with so many enlightening and inspiring presentations. I'm very honored. And I also have to, just listening to Caroline's presentation, I just, you always yourself have a perception that your life or career path is the most horrible or difficult one. But after listening to stories like the one with Caroline, makes you realize how lucky or fortunate some of us are. And probably I am that person who from time to time is never satisfied to what you get in return to the efforts that you actually put on. So, but I have to admit that my career path was effectively linear. So, I should be probably grateful for that. So I will try to skim through my career path, which a bit probably short. So it started back in 1989, when I got as myself admitted to the Lyceum of Physics and Mathematics in my hometown, Kharkiv, Ukraine. After which I studied in Kharkiv State University, which was the name of that university by the time of my graduation. And currently this university, this one, is known as Kharkiv National University. I graduated it in 1996 with the specialist degree, which is roughly Bachelor of Science in Applied Mathematics. And then I spent a couple of years in Kharkiv Aerospace University studying the basics of machine learning and AI. And due to the lack of the sufficient development in technology at the time, so I decided to move on to pursue applied mathematics again, but this time in the US. So I moved to the Pennsylvania State University and graduated from this university with PhD in math in 2006. After that, I spent 3 years in Texas A&M University doing my postdoctoral studies, and from which I kind of smoothly transitioned to the tenured track position in University of Houston, and tenured in this university in 2015. So again, as I said, it was mostly linear and not so much obstacles or problems during this almost 9 years of, no, a little bit more. But 2 years ago, I was invited to join the Division of Mathematical Sciences of National Science Foundation, ONSF short, as a rotating program director of the Computational Mathematics program. And starting very recently, I joined the Division of Mathematical Sciences staff as a permanent program officer of the same program, Computational Mathematics. So this is our beautiful building in Alexandria, Virginia. And just in case if you wonder what is this picture, which was on my title slide. So it's a wall mural in the lobby of the NSF headquarters in Virginia, which provides a visual history of the National Science Foundation, which spans nearly 7 decades of scientific discovery and innovation in science and engineering. So obviously it pays a tribute to the people behind all those wonderful ideas in science and engineering, and to those at NSF whose efforts make it possible. So I want to say a couple of words about National Science Foundation and highlight a few programs that it does in order to broaden participation in STEM disciplines. The US National Science Foundation, whose motto is "Where discoveries are made," should propel the nation forward by advancing fundamental research in all fields of science and engineering. NSF support research and researchers, providing them facilities, instruments, and funding to support the ingenuity. It was established in 1950, 70 years ago, following the Vannevar Bush report written in Science in 1945, where he stated, this is a quote, "Scientific progress is one essential key of our security as a nation, to our better health, to more jobs, to higher standards of living, and to our cultural progress." And nowadays, the NSF is an independent federal agency that supports fundamental research and education across all fields of science and engineering. And last fiscal year in 2020, its budget was $8.3 billion. And the NSF funds reach all 50 states in the US through the grants to nearly 2,000 colleges, universities, and other institutions. And each year, NSF receives more than 48,000 proposals to fund and makes about 12,000 new funding awards each year. Every few years, the NSF releases a strategic plan. And currently we are under the one released in 2018, which was titled "Building the Future, Investing in Discovery and Innovation." So, and this plan will be effective until 2022. And to achieve NSF's vision of all nation that is global leader in research and innovation, this plan lays out 3 strategic goals. So the first one, which is expand knowledge in science, engineering, and learning, is aligned with one of the NSF's missions, which is to promote the progress of science. And it aims to advance knowledge through the investments in ideas, people, and infrastructure, and to advance the practice of research. The second strategic goal, according to this plan, is to advance the capability of the nation to meet current and future challenges. This one flows from another part of the NSF's mission, namely to advance the nation's health, prosperity, and welfare, to secure the national defense and for other purposes. This goal focuses on societal impacts and the STEM workforce. And the last but not least, third goal, to enhance NSF's performance of its mission, includes strategies to attract, retain, and empower the talented and diverse workforce, and to continually improve agency operations. So the efforts by NSF to support broadening participation in STEM disciplines highlighted on this slide. So I will leave you by reading the quote by our current director, Dr. Punch. According to the strategic plan that I mentioned before, the broadening participation investment is universal commitment across all NSF directorates in order to advance the capability of the nation to meet current and future challenges, of course. And NSF's commitment to broadening participation is embedded into this plan through the variety of investment priorities related to the strategic goals and objectives. And those include preparing a diverse, globally engaged science, technology, engineering, and mathematics workforce, integrating research with education and building the capacity, expanding efforts to broaden participation from underrepresented groups and diverse institutions across all the geographical nations in all NSF activities, And last but not least, improving processes to recruit and select highly qualified reviewers and panelists, which reflects the nation's diversity. Again, through its investments, NSF strives to have a national impact on preparing and supporting a diverse STEM workforce and informed citizenry. And this commitment to broaden participation in STEM disciplines is central to the agency's core values and evident, of course, throughout the foundation. NSF encourages STEM researchers and professionals who seek funding to propose inclusive and non-discriminatory strategies to broaden the participation of individuals who belong to underrepresented groups and underrepresented in STEM disciplines, including those who identify themselves as African American, Alaska Native, Hispanic, Native American, and others, women and individuals with disabilities. And also NSF supports research and programs that focus on supporting the institutions that predominantly serve or reach individuals from underrepresented groups, such as community colleges, minority serving institutions, women's colleges, institutions for persons with disabilities, and informal institutions such as science centers. They also reach out to geographic rural areas with low rates of participation in NSF funded STEM research and education program as well. The NSF Broadening Participation portfolio includes a few dozen of programs and funding opportunities which are designed specifically to broaden participation in STEM. And these investments range from capacity building, research centers, partnerships, alliances, to the use of co-funding of supplements to the existing awards in the core research program. But roughly, the NSF Broadening Participation portfolio is divided into 3 categories. And since this summit is devoted to the women in tech, so I will be listing examples of specific programs which are designed to attract or retain female researchers or responding to their current challenges. So those 3 categories are focus programs, and the examples of those can be the advanced program. And in this parenthesis, I'm indicating them the coding, which the number of solicitation that one can find on nsf.gov. And the advanced program actually has a goal to increase the representation and advancement of women in academic science and engineering careers, and hence contribute to the development of a more diverse science and engineering workforce. The other 2 examples of NSF scholarship system and the one about the inclusion across the nation of communities, etc., are self-explanatory. The second type of the programs of the Broadening Participation portfolio by NSF is the emphasis programs, and mid-career advancement one is an example of this. It's not directly targeted toward women, but we know that women are the ones who challenge the most at their mid-career level. And last but not least, so-called DCLs, which are the Dear Collect letters by specific directorates or divisions. And one of the examples of very recent one was the call to for the research on sexual and other forms of harassment in STEM contexts. And NSF partners with other organizations, for example, National Center for Science and Engineering Statistics, in order to conduct research that produce and release various reports and analysis pertaining to the broadening participation. And the list of the most recent ones that affect various levels of our society is highlighted here on this slide, and also you can find them on the nsf.gov slide. I will just glance through this. I won't be staying here longer. And I finally want to go back to the main topic of this session, which is on infinite possibilities with PhD in math, and just say a little bit more what the NSF program directors do. So our responsibilities at the NSF include all aspects of management and oversight of the research project proposals throughout their full cycle. By that, I mean prepare, set up, and conduct a panel of reviewers managing the NSF immediate review criteria process, approve annual reports, determine importance and the research priorities to the computational mathematics research community, and many, many others. I should also assert that not only academic faculty and lab researchers are the ones who can do and do conduct research in math. So the NSF is actually fully committed to its program directors' research activities. And the NSF allocates them about 50 days a year, which is a lot, I think, for our IRD plan, individual research and development plans. So according to those, we can write a paper, write a book, advise a student, travel to the conferences if it's possible, not during the travel ban, of course, visit our collaborators. These activities is also covered by NSF to some extent. And all that will allow us to stay on track with the most recent development in our fields and personally participate in those activities ourselves, of course. And in some respect, our research work setting is, I would say, closer to the academic one than that in lab or industry. And this is because we are fully independent to choose our project to work. Our research is not being overseen by the administration. Of course, modular, perhaps some necessary acknowledgements and compliance check, perhaps. So in pre-pandemic era, we were able to travel almost anywhere we wished. Sure, of course, we all are the government employees, but we are not so bounded as, say, program directors in DOE or DOD. And as we're going back to my career, so currently I'm able to maintain all my established collaborations with my colleagues. I have a number of those with whom I work on common projects. By the way, I should have mentioned that my research interest lies in the areas of analysis and simulation of partial differential equations with applications to the material science, perhaps with the recent tweak of machine learning and AI techniques applied to these problems. I'm also advising and mentoring a graduate student who now works with me toward his PhD degree at the University of Houston, which was my recent home institution. And besides attending the conferences and workshops, pre-pandemic, of course, we program directors can deliver research talks at seminars and colloquies. So I'm also currently serving, as it was announced, as an associate editor of SIAM, Journal of Applied Mathematics. So on top of that, each of the program directors at NSF is also involved in a large number of outreach activities like this one. That is beyond of our primary duties. We deliver talk to the communities that do not necessarily consist of mathematicians or researchers of our professional level. For example, next month I will be delivering a talk about importance of math to high school children in New Mexico. And adding to the outreach efforts, we also quite often speak about NSF funding opportunities for different levels of professionals in the US mathematical community. And once I was talking about this one, I highlighted all this. I just realized this sounded a little bit as an NSF commercial or advertising. It was not definitely meant that way. So, and I do not want to break anyone's hope to apply to NSF because there are only 28 program directors, and half of which are 14 exactly are permanent. But there are other federal agencies, which Caroline has mentioned already, but such as DOE, NIH, NIST, and many, many others that seek for the mathematicians as program officers to work there as well. So if somebody is looking for such opportunities, they are definitely there. So to that end, I would like to conclude my presentation to say thank you for your attention and hope I did not take you long.
Thank you very much, Julia, for your presentation. And because of our technical problem at the beginning, we prolong a little our time, but maybe there are some remarks or questions very, very shortly. If not, then I would like to thank our fascinating speakers who present the example of very strong mathematicians, brave and talented women, and who present their personal and professional career. My special thanks go to Marta. Marta, in fact, organized that event and know every technical details and each details of people and presentation and so on. And finally, 20 minutes before that event, the computer, Marta computer, was spoiled and because of as well as my virtual camera. So this day is in fact fatal day for us, but in my special thanks to Marta. Please give the brave for Marta for the organization this wonderful meeting for us. Thank you very much. Thank you for listeners. Thank you, speakers, and thank you for all. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you.